Hello and welcome to Beyond the Deal. It's the show where we go deeper than the numbers and we talk about everything that goes into success and entrepreneurship. And today we have a very, very special episode for you. Usually on these episodes, I'm kind of doing a lot of talking, chiming in here and there, but this isn't one of those episodes. We had an amazing guest on today, Trevor Mauch, who is the founder and CEO of Carrot.com. And if you've ever tried to flip a house or be a wholesaler or any of these things, you've definitely heard of Carrot.com. He grew it into a 50-person company. He's got, multi-million dollar exit options. And today he just goes in on everything it takes to get to that level. We talk about auditing your energy, buying back your time, how to pick the right people, how to surround yourself with people that don't drain your energy. So much golden nuggets of information in today's episode. And as you'll hear in the episode, it's probably just going to be a part one because there was so much more that we have to get into. So I hope you enjoy it. And without further ado, let's get into the episode. All right, Trevor, welcome to Beyond the Deal. So happy to have you here.
Michael, man, I'm pumped to be here, buddy. Appreciate the invite, and I'm excited about our time today.
Awesome. So for our guests who maybe are unfamiliar with you or Carrot, can you kind of tell us a little bit about what you've accomplished, what you got going on right now?
Yeah, dude. So I'll bring it up in the future really quick, kind of set the stake in the ground for where we are today. We're a company. We serve thousands and thousands of real estate investors, primarily house flippers, wholesalers, land flippers, a lot of real estate agents, and we help them get a lot of leads online. So if you're to Google, sell my house fast, insert any city or state in America and Canada, you'll probably find somewhere between 3 and 6, 3 and 7 of the top results in Google are using a Carrot website in every city in America. And so we've been able to really drive a huge amount of motivated seller leads, over $1 billion in transactions over the last decade that our clients have done through our leads. But dude, it's been a journey. We're 45 full-time employees, bootstrapped. Never thought I would have one employee in my life. I never thought I was capable of it, but it's been a journey. And I think that a couple accolades that are like achievements, not really how I would weigh my self-worth, but they're pretty cool achievements. We were able to hit the Inc. 500, 5,000 list 5 years in a row. We were the fastest growing software company in the state of Oregon 2 years in a row, 2-time top 10 most philanthropic small business in Oregon as well. And so we've been able to really have a ride, man, but I've learned a lot of challenges, a lot of struggles along the way, a lot of learning lessons.
Yeah. And I think some of our listeners maybe do or don't know this about me, but back in 2016, 2018, I was a house flipper. I was very familiar with Carrot. I don't think I was ever actually a customer. I think I paid some guy in India to build my website, but it probably would have been better if I went with you, had some more SEO, some more backlinks, all those kinds of things. I'm really excited about this conversation. There's so many different directions we can go here, but let's go back to the past first, right? Yeah. Really, this podcast at the end of the day is all about entrepreneurship. We talk a lot about real estate and different kinds of asset classes and deals, but it's more about what does it take to get to, right? And so take us back to the beginning. What were you doing? How did you start Carrot? And tell us about the journey.
So going way back, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I think that might be a little bit different than a lot of people listen to this. Is I hear stories of people going, hey, I was selling lemonade on the street corner. I was buying candy for this and I was taking it to school and selling it for double. And I was never that guy, partially because I want to be a baseball player, right? I love baseball. I want to be a baseball player. And so I thought I was going to be Mark McGwire or something like that when I grew up. But my parents became entrepreneurs out of necessity. And so my dad lost his job and he then started his own company, and he had some major, major challenges that first few years. He had a business partner, and his business partner pulled the rug out from underneath him and kicked him out and thought my dad was just going to give up. My dad instead moved down about a quarter mile down the street, opened up a competing business. And for 20 years they competed and they both exited their businesses as well. My mom started a business out of necessity in our basement to make some money while my dad was trying to make this business thing work. And so I saw my parents working really hard to provide for the family, but I also saw that we were working weekends all the time. One of the businesses was a party and event store. So we would take tables, chairs, tents, things like that to weddings and parties. And it'd be us at 10, 12, 14 years old. Yeah, we're packing tables and chairs on Saturday mornings or Friday evenings and picking them up on Sundays all throughout the summer. And so we never had like a lot of trips that we went on during those years, but I was so grateful we never felt deprived It was just like, this is how it is. We're working hard as a family together to make this thing work. We literally lived above the business for 10 to 12 years. And so the phone would ring on Christmas Day, on Thanksgiving. It would ring at 2 a.m. My dad would always hop up and answer it. So I learned so many lessons along the way, like how to treat a customer and how to go above and beyond to really solve their problem. But I also went, I don't want that. If that's what entrepreneurship is, I don't want that. And so I went the other way, and I thought I wanted to be a doctor. And then I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. And I had this college professor who was a real estate investor and a lawyer. And I remember his name is Ari DeGroot. I remember Ari up there speaking, and he was just so passionately talking about the real estate deals he would do. And he would teach us business law through real estate. And I go, man, if that guy's that excited about his work, I want to do what he's doing. And so I got a 50% right, Michael. I flunked both times taking the LSAT test. I didn't get into any law school. I got waitlisted on one, but I bought my first fourplex when I was in 21, no money down, Carlton sheet style before I got out of college. And so that's where I kind of got bit by that. Let's fast forward now 4 or 5 years. I discovered I didn't want to be a flipper or wholesaler. I was more of I like real estate for the long-term wealth building. And I wasn't as much of a real estate for the transactional income guy. But I learned I liked marketing a lot. And I'm like, man, I want to learn how people tick, and I want to learn how people think. And I started to learn human psychology, and I started to find out about the internet then, back in 2007, and what you could actually use the internet for to get in front of people, the right people who were searching for things that your business could provide. And so I was doing some consulting. I graduated college, had that fourplex, had a couple thousand in the bank, got married to my now wife. We moved to the big town. We moved to Portland, Oregon with almost nothing, and she was going to graduate school. And I went $16,000 in credit card debt that year. Paid my taxes on my credit card, which I don't suggest you do. Didn't even know you could do it at that time because I didn't have the money to pay for the taxes. I decided to not get a job that first year. I'm like, I'm going to give it 12 full months to figure this entrepreneur thing out. And after the 12 months, I'm not going to give up before 12. After the 12 months, then I'm going to reevaluate and see if I can give it another 12 months. And that was a lesson I learned early on, Michael, was I think people quit easy and early. And I don't remember where I got that. I don't know if I thought about it or if someone told me that or if I read it, but I had that locked into my brain, the 12-month commitment. I still do that today. So every year when a new year rolls in, I have a vision. I have a long-term vision, but I always ask the question, am I willing and am I ready to commit deeply for 12 more months driving this forward, where I'm not even going to consider shifting gears or adjusting? And I still do that today. But fast forward, man, I learned a lot about marketing, learned a lot about how to build a website, and then how to get people to the website through content, and then I had people to the website, but they weren't turning into leads. So then I learned conversion rate optimization. I did 700 split tests over the years. And then that led into, there's this combination of marketing, real estate, and I was driving leads for investors and agents at that time. And we had some success in one of my companies, like minor success, making $400,000 or $500,000 a year. And so I took some money and I invested it into a couple startup software companies that other people I knew well. I'd never seen software. I'd never seen SaaS before. And so I had got a taste of what software can do by the business model of software, where you build something, you keep refining it, and you make an amazing product that solves a real problem, and people keep wanting to pay you monthly or annually or quarterly or whatever. And so after I honestly got burnout in 2012 from my previous company, I went through a couple different companies, an online publishing company, had my real estate still, I was buying more real estate on the side, no money down, equity rich, cash poor, because all the money was going into roofs and toilets and things like that. Then I was burnout in 2012. I just wanted to give up. We had two young children at that time. One was 2 and one was just born. And I remember sitting there in the bedroom when my wife went to work. She went to work that day and I was supposed to be working. And I was like, man, I don't want to do the work I'm about to do today. I'm not excited about it. I'm not energized about it. And my days and my work weeks are draining the crap out of me. And I was even considering maybe I should just go get a job. If this is what the entrepreneur dream is, I don't know that I want it. And so I'll toss it back to you and you can take it where you want it.
That is such a good segue. I mean, this is everything we love to talk about here, right? It's the struggles of entrepreneurship, the things behind the scenes, not the glamour, right? It's a roller coaster. We have kind of a little bit of a parallel journey in the sense that I got my start in SaaS sales, and for some reason, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I was the other way. I was 3 years in the corporate world and said, never again, I'm working for myself. And then, but it was a 4-unit building, just like you, that changed my life. It was a 4-unit building where I lived in one of the units. I rented out the other 3, and I was like, this is the best thing ever, right? And it changed the direction. And, here we are now, probably 7 or 8 years later with a very large portfolio. but it wasn't easy. It was a roller coaster, and it's still always been a roller coaster. I mean, the equity rich cash poor thing is very, very real for a lot of entrepreneurs.
Oh
So
yeah.
when you're at this pivotal moment, what is it that makes you decide to keep going?
So in that time, so I would have been about 4 years into my entrepreneur journey. I started that. I bought my first real estate actually in 2004, but I'm talking like as a starting an actual business and trying to go it alone and trying to make money is about 4 years in. And like I said, I had that business that was making about $500,000 a year between me and my business partner. We would split it after costs. We were both making about $150,000 to $200,000 a year. And the very next year, and I'm going to walk you through what changes I made. But I remember when we moved to our current house, big house on the lake, and we're building a giant pool and all that kind of stuff on the cliffside right now, like our dream property. I was unpacking a box in our garage and I saw my old 2012 tax return. And the 2012 tax return was $27,000. So I had 10x my income between 2011 and 2012, just the wrong way, the wrong direction. I 10x'd it backwards. But that was on purpose because in that 2011, 2012, started 2012 when I was getting really worn out, I remember thinking, I was like, well, there's no way that nobody has got this figured out, right? I don't think everybody is probably loving it as much as they're all saying that they are, what I see, but there's no way they're all as miserable as I am right now. And so I remember advice that I was taking, Michael, for years where people were telling me, hey, Trevor, you need to delegate. And the way that you do that is you draw a line down the middle of the paper. And on one side, you write all the things that make you money. And on the other side, you write all the things that don't make you money. And then you just circle the things that make you money and you do more of that and you delegate everything that doesn't make you money. And so that's what I did that previous 3 to 4 years. The problem was I wasn't thinking about and I didn't recognize that the majority of the things on that list that people were rewarding me for, they were paying me well for, they were telling me I was really good at, they drained my energy. A lot of it was execution. It was like I was really good at marketing, but it sucked the living life out of me to sit down and write a big email marketing campaign or to rip through and build a website. I love strategy, man. Like I've got whiteboards all over the place in this office and I love sitting down with my team and I'll strategize, but I want to leave the room once the strategy's done. And I was like, I don't want any part of executing it, but I love the strategy part. Yeah. And so I was the guy who was not only doing strategy, but executing as well. So I flipped it around and I said, well, what if I thought differently about this? I already tried the direction of optimizing for money and optimizing for productivity. What if I optimized for energy and joy instead? Because I already did this. I made some money and it didn't give me what I wanted. Let's do the opposite. The worst thing that can happen is I just enjoy what I'm doing more. And then maybe if I enjoy what I'm doing more, it'll show in my work and maybe my value will go up and maybe my income will go up. But worst case, I can just restart. And so I did the same thing. I drew a line down the middle of the paper, but I changed it this time. I said on one side of that line, I call it my energy audit. I created it in 2012. On one side of that line, it says drains, energy drains. On the other side, it was energy give. And I started writing down all the things that drain my energy in life and business. Okay, anything I was doing, I would think back the last week, the last day, and write down everything. It's like, oh man, writing those emails, or I don't mind hopping on the phone with prospects, but I don't want to have my whole calendar filled with prospects, with sales calls, or these types of conversations are literally this person. Like every time I connect with them, it just drains me. How do I work through that? And then on the other side, I would write things that give me energy, especially the things I wasn't doing, working out, strategy, having podcast conversations like this. I had a couple during that time. I interviewed some other people. I'm like, that was a lot of fun. But I didn't do it more because I couldn't figure out how to make money doing it. So I crossed it off the list. Doesn't make you money. Get rid of it, right? And so I wrote down this whole list of stuff. And then I go, well, what's not measured can't be moved. And so then I wrote a percentage. I go, well, just in my average week, this last couple of weeks, what's my percentage of energy drain versus energy give? And at that time, it was like 80% energy drain, 20% energy give. And I go, wow, no wonder I'm absolutely hating my work. And so then I said, I'm gonna run a new experiment. What if I just do a year? I'm gonna sign up for another year, right, of a new commitment, and I'm going to focus on optimizing for energy. Around that time is when I made some major moves in my businesses. Okay, so that business that was making $500,000 and net me and my business partner $150 or so each. That business I had to then think, I said, well, can this business be my vehicle that gets me where I want to go, or is it not the vehicle that can get me there? And I made a hard decision and I talked to my business partner and it's like, man, Patrick, I love you, but I've just got to do something else. And so I don't want to negotiate with you. You just tell me a number, like just give me a number on what you're willing to buy my half of the company for. I will say yes, no negotiation, no questions asked. Because I want to retain the friendship. And he gave me a number that was worth way less than it was probably worth, but I ran the business. I did most of those things. I can understand the risk he saw he was taking on, but he bought my 50% of that business for $60,000, which was about a third of what I was netting myself and carried over 5 years. Okay. Wow, so I followed through on my commitment. I said yes, enthusiastically. And I go, now I got my brain back. I got my time back. I didn't look to anything else. I read a book at that time called Pumpkin Plan by Mike Michalowicz. And I go, I'm pumpkin planning the heck out of things right now. I'm going to find the things that are all these little pumpkins. I've got all these little businesses, all these things. I thought I was the mini Richard Branson, but I didn't realize that Richard Branson has CEOs of each one of those businesses. And I was the CEO of each one of them. They're all doing mediocre. And I'm going to pumpkin plan things all the way down to just a couple pumpkins. One that is one I know I can make some money doing right now. And the other one is I don't know what it's going to be. It's whatever's going to come next. And so I kept the consulting business, which I just kept on this very side project thing. About $2,000 a month is all I was bringing in that year, or for that year on the consulting side. And then I said, I'm going to try to make something new. And a couple of things I did during that time that weighted me through that as I go. So number one was the energy audit. Started taking the energy audit every quarter. Then I would circle the one or two things on the energy drain column that drained my energy the most, write down how many hours it was taking each week. And I would say, before I do anything else in my business, I'm going to delegate or eliminate both of those things. And let's say it would be like 7 hours on one of the things a week and 5 hours. You get 13 hours a week right there, or 12 hours or whatever it is a week. And I go, great, I'm going to delegate or automate or get rid of those things. And then I'm going to go replace that 12 hours with things that give me energy. And I was saying maybe over the course of a year or two, I can flip flop it and I can move it from 80% energy drain, 80% energy give, and let me just see what happens. So I did that. And it took me I'm a slow learner, Michael. It took me 2 years to make that full transition. But during that 2 years, I ended up having an idea for Carrot, which is a whole nother 30-minute podcast, but I had an idea for Carrot, launched that idea, had a 12-month commitment to say, I'm not sure if this is going to work, but I'm going to give it a 12-month try, and I'm not going to quit till I hit the 12 months. It worked. We became one of the fast-growing companies in America for 5 years in a row, 8-figure a year company. And the other big principle around that time is I got the right people around me. I go, man, I know I don't know a lot of the things I need to know. And so that same year that I made $27,000 net on my tax return, I stroked a $19,000 check to join my first mastermind. And that mastermind changed my life. It was like the fourth in-person meeting for that year of 4 is when I got the major unlock that really helped me see what my unique abilities were. So I could really take this energy audit concept and double down and say, oh my gosh, not only am I going to do things that give me energy, I now found the things that I could truly be among the best in the world at if I actually indexed there. And that's what led into just completely changing the way that I approached work and life.
Yeah. So I'm a big proponent of masterminds myself. I think I've probably been in more than a dozen over the course of the years.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Hey, really quick, thank you for watching this episode. I wanted to interrupt for just a second to let you know that if you have ever considered raising capital for real estate deals like I do, my course is now on sale for just $250. That's right, lifetime access for just $250. You get access to all the scripts, all the processes, all the tech, all the marketing. I will teach you everything you need to know in my video course. You can use the link below to check it out. You can hear testimonials from other students. Most of my students are raising an average of $500,000 in their first few months. Some of them have raised $1.5 million. All right, so if you've ever considered doing this, go ahead and click the link below. And if you are interested in one-on-one coaching, that is also something that we can talk about. You can book a call with me. All right, let's get back to the episode. It's so true. The people that you're around, the people that you surround yourself with, and entrepreneurship can be kind of a lonely, isolating journey. I mean, you had your wife and your family, right? The further you go down this road, the harder it can be to relate to people who work a 9 to 5. They just don't get it. They have no idea. Like, if you think you've been stressed before, try raising $5 million in 3 months and then tell me how you feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what kind of things do you put in place right now? I mean, obviously there's masterminds, but maybe in relation to employees, right? Because a toxic employee can ruin a company faster than anything, right? So how do you sort of gauge the people in your life and make sure that you're surrounding yourself with the right kind of people?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the biggest thing is all has to go to the foundation, right? So back in that 2012 level or that year span, I didn't understand, Michael, that I didn't have a foundation of values I was building on. I was just taking whatever next opportunity came my way. And so at that time in 2012, the same thing, got a piece of paper out and started writing on it. And I wrote down all the things I didn't like about my previous businesses, like a big old list. And I ordered them and circled the top 5. And because I couldn't figure out what my values were going to be or what my non-negotiables were going to be. I knew I didn't want to build another business like I just did, but I didn't know what I actually wanted in the future. So I took those 5 things that were the things I didn't like the most. I'm like, I didn't like that I had inconsistent, unpredictable income. I didn't like the fact that I was mainly working off of like transactional income. I had to keep on going out every month and getting new revenue. I didn't like that I wasn't building an asset. I was just creating sales. I wasn't building an asset that could be valuable and sold. I wasn't doing things within my unique abilities. And I wasn't focused. I was doing 5, 6 businesses at once. So those were my top 5 issues. And I'm like, the way that you discover what you do want oftentimes is you take the things you don't want and what is the opposite of that. And so I set my 5 non-negotiables. That was one of the first things that I did, Michael, to get the right people around me to be able to guide my decisions. Is those 5 non-negotiables are still in place. They're on my computer. They have been since 2012. I weigh every major business decision on those. It's consistent, predictable income. Every business I have today is recurring revenue. There's not one that is not. Everything got moved to recurring revenue, including my private lending business and things like that. And number 2, have fun and really focus at your core on like one big thing. Okay. Number 3, it was build a valuable asset. Number 4, work within my unique abilities. And I think I either covered the 5 or I mashed 2 together there maybe. But I carried those forward. So as I started Carrot, I said, whatever business I've got, it's got to match these 5 things. So I've got to attract people that are also looking for something similar. They want to dig deep. They want to build something that lasts, that's durable, that's not fleeting. They want to do the best work of their lives. I think the next thing then, so those were my personal non-negotiables for how I was going to treat business. But then as you go into business, you have to create non-negotiables, which are your core values, right? And so if people are watching this versus the audio right across from my desk back there, you can see my core values poster. Every single one of our employees has a version of our core values poster. And I have mine literally within eyeshot at all times when I'm here in my office, because if I'm on a call, I want to be pulling from those core values at every moment that I can when I'm talking with a team member or a customer, whatever it is. And so I think that's huge. Is we've got to go back on our roots and say, what is it that we actually value that we're going to make hiring decisions on, firing decisions on, big decisions in the company? And when you have a big vision, values, those attract amazing people. And I think a lot of that self-sorts. But I'll give you one last thought here. So I'm gonna do my best here. And if you guys are on the YouTube version of this, I think you guys will really resonate with what I'm putting out here. The last thing, dude, that I started to do, and this was, let me find it here. This was a handful of years ago, is I started to recognize, Michael, let me find the right one here. I started to recognize that there were patterns in business and life. The more that I could recognize patterns and the more that I could recognize how to consolidate those patterns together, I could eliminate the big ups and downs that were happening. And I call it my life OS, life operating system. And one of the things I started to recognize as I grew multiple business is I found myself becoming the tool of the business. I found myself becoming the thing that worked for the business rather than the business working for me. Okay. And I think we all get into entrepreneurship because we want freedom, right? We want what is in the middle of my entrepreneur freedom formula here, which is freedom and impact. We want a business that provides freedom and impact, right? The freedom to do what we want, when we want, with whom we want, and to make an impact that we're proud of. But then we pull up here and go, well, great. What are the 3 things that our business should do for us? Well, business is just a tool. It took me probably 10 plus years as an entrepreneur to recognize that business was a tool that we needed to hire to do a job. And what happens is you get past that first 1 to 2 years of a business. Like I said, it's way too easy. The business hires us. And also we are the employee of that business and it takes us wherever it wants to go. So I need people to pull back and say, well, no, business is just a tool. We're hiring to do something. What are we hiring it to do? Well, my first thing is we hire it to give us work that energizes us, right? The work should energize us. If the work doesn't energize and interest us, then the question is like, why are we doing it? If we're not interested to solve that problem, and more often than not, the work that we're doing is energizing, and we're finding out how to delegate the things that drain our energy, then we start to resent ourselves. So the next thing that we want our business or our work to do is to fund the vision. I think one thing a lot of us do, and it happened to me during those years when we were hitting 300, 400, 800% growth paths, or it's like, oh man, more growth. Like the goal is just more. The goal is just more growth. And after a while, you start to wrap your identity around the achievement versus your identity around the core. And you go, man, well, I am the fast growing company guy. Therefore, I need to keep growing fast. And you start to get on this train that's pulling you away from your core identity of who you actually are. And then we forget that, no, I hired that business to fund this vision. Like, what is that vision? What is that life you want to live? What's that ideal average day? What's it going to cost you to live that? Put a real number to it. And then say, I'm building this business as a tool to fund that. Okay. When we go off on the wrong path, it's when we're growing the business for ego. Oh man, I want to be a $1 million a year entrepreneur. I want to be a $10 million a year entrepreneur. I want to be a guy who exits for 100 million. When I was getting cash offers about 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't realize why I turned them all down in an instant. The biggest cash offer I got from one of the biggest private equity firms in America was 65 million cash. Could have walked away within 6 months. Like, there was no earn out. The day that it closed, I could have walked away.
Wow.
And I said no. It took me like 5 seconds to make the decision. And I thought I was smart when I was making that decision. Hindsight, there's a lot of things I didn't know. But what in hindsight I really learned, Michael, was it was ego. I was like, I want to sell the business for 100 million. Just give me 2 more years, a little bit more growth, because we grew a lot this last couple of years. A little bit more will be worth 100, then we'll sell. There's no functional difference in my life between 10 million and 100 million, let alone 65 million and 100. It was all ego. So I got wrapped into ego, which is false identity, instead of hiring it to fund my vision. The last part is that business should provide an impact that you're proud of. And that really is what kind of encompasses those 3 core parts that I feel should be a part of a business. Freedom and impact is the goal, but we want to have purpose involved in our business. We want to have a business that produces consistent profits. And then we want to have a business that enables us to get our energy and time back. And I can take this as deep as you want and kind of go through nuance, walk through literally the paths from 0 to 30 million on exactly what needs to change along that way. I'll take you wherever you want to go. Man, I could talk to this for an hour.
I can see that. And, unfortunately, we are more or less out of time for today.
For sure.
But this has been just an absolute masterclass in running and scaling businesses. And it's been an absolute treat for me to watch. And I'm thinking maybe now we can turn this into a multi-part series, because obviously the story is not done, right?
Yep.
There's much more to be discussed here. At the end of every episode, though, I do like to ask our guests. Now, you mentioned earlier that you were burnt out, you were stressed, you were doubting yourself. What are you doing differently today? How are you maintaining your sanity? How are you maintaining your health as a CEO of a 45-person company?
Yeah, dude, the biggest thing is around 2016 or so, I adopted what I call 5 daily non-negotiables. Mm-hmm. And with the non-negotiables, one of them is always to be moving and sweating every day. The second one is always reading every day. So reading 10 pages a day. That helps me clear my mind. Okay. And one thing I briefly showed on that screen for like a half a second, something I call my momentum meter. And I recognize on the daily basis, we need to have this pattern that happens. And when we get into burnout, it's when on that momentum meter, pretend it's a pendulum. On one side, it's rest and being. We're pulling up into rest. And the other side, it's doing and business. Okay. So in order to perform high in the business side, we need to pull that pendulum up on the rest side. The problem is when we get in burnout, we pull up into rest. In the first we pull up is just distraction. That we open up the cell phone and we doom scroll or whatever. Like we go up into rest and distraction. When we only go up into distraction, we let go of that pendulum, it flies over into busy work. And you're just going distraction, busy work, distraction, busy work, distraction, busy work. So the first thing is we've got to identify our vice. That's it. Write down, if you're in burnout and you're going distraction to busy work, we got to ask the question, what is the distraction I keep going to? What is the thing I keep drifting to because of my frustration? Because I'm looking for something that gives me a fix on the daily basis to numb, the boredom that I have because I'm not making any decisions and moving out of the spot. So eliminate the vice. I've got my thing I do with my coaching clients called the vice elimination process. Number 2, then you get into physical energy. So I've got a routine. It's on the calendar, work out every single day. Okay. It doesn't have to be big, but work out every day. Number 3, get mentally clear every day. And so that's different for everybody. For me, it's reading scripture in the morning and reading 10 pages a day of a book on my nightstand in the evening. Not audiobook. I'm talking read. Like pick up the book and read it because it just helps me get focused and clears my mind. Okay. Number 4, as we go up in there, then it's like you're repeating those patterns, but then I do some sort of connection on a daily basis with other people. So Tuesday morning, we're recording this on a Tuesday. My wife and I have Tuesday morning date mornings every week. I drop the kids off and then until 11 o'clock, her and I are just hanging out on Tuesdays. I've got my Monday, Wednesday, Friday workouts with my buddies in here in my gym in my office. Connection's a big part. So recognize, are you in burnout? If so, you're just going up to distraction and you're letting go into busy work. We got to eliminate the vice that's keeping you in distraction. Number 1. Number 2, get a sweat on every day. Number 3, do something that calms your mind and gets you mentally clear. And number 4, connect with people every day. Dude, you do that, it doesn't matter how your business is doing. Life by default is already better, and it helps you work through the hardest parts of your business more easily.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. Trevor, thank you so much for being here. We have to wrap it up now, but I have a feeling you're going to be back very soon.
Awesome, buddy. Appreciate you, man. Thank you, guys.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Beyond the Deal. I hope you got some valuable insights that you can apply to your own investing journey. Now, if you've enjoyed this conversation, do me a favor, hit that follow button, leave a review, and share this episode with somebody who you think could benefit from it. It really helps the show grow and bring on even more incredible guests. If you want to go deeper, make sure to follow me on your socials. You can find the links in the show notes in the description below. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time. Until then, keep going beyond the deal.